Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Apex Season 4. I am still Atlas, this is still Wolf. We didn't have very much reset time because that was a very quick first series that decided the outcome of Group D. X6 will be promoted in first place from the group, and Combox will take second, as of course LW Blue was eliminated, as well as Meta Bellum. So waving goodbye to both of those guys, and congratulations to our first two teams locked into their positions, I believe.
Sure, so let's, that's correct. So let's just take a moment to talk to our audience and put one assumption on the table.
We can put as many on the table as you want, Wolf. I'm happy. I'm an assumption fan.
I just really need one, okay?
Okay,
so we put one on the table is that Lunatic High will win their final match against Meta Athena. Very likely with a 3-0, but let's just assume they're going to win it. That means that in this next series, MVP Space only needs 2 wins to secure their spot in the top with Lunatic High. So for Runaway, they need a 3-1 or a 3-2 score to then pass MVP Space directly to actually knock them out. Then Lunatic High would join them, assuming they win, right? Which, we're just putting that assumption on the table because it's very likely to occur. Now, miracles do happen, so here are the possibilities, of course. You could look at the scores and make them out.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you're the one taking us through this because honestly, I can't do the numbers in my brain.
So basically, MVP Space needs 2 maps. If they get 2 maps, then they will at least pass Lunatic High and be able to stay in the group. Runaway needs the win. They need it 3-0 or 3-1. That's what they need here to be able to secure this spot. Regardless to what happens, assuming Lunatic High wins the series, that is what they need. So that's the most important part of all of this. Space needs the 2 wins to advance, and if they win the series at all, they actually get first place in the group and get that extra spot to pick the group they go into in group selection for the round of 8. So this graph looks really complicated, and it looks like it's all over the place and stuff, but it's really basically that simple. I know if Lunatic High does end up losing, it gets a little bit more complicated against Meta Athena, but it's very unlikely to occur. If that happens, whoever's casting that day, I believe it'll be a Friday, we'll actually walk you guys through it to further explain what all that means. But just remember that for Runaway, getting a 3-0 or a 3-1 is so important tonight, basically required. So that's what they are looking for. It's going to be a tall ask because they're absolutely the underdogs going to the series based on what we've seen from Space already.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the lineups that are coming to play in a little while. I don't want to spoil them just yet, but I know a lot of you guys are curious and wondering who's going to be showing up on the tank line for Runaway. But we're going to keep that a secret for now.
Yeah, just for the moment. Of course, one thing I want to talk about is Huxall, the fact that he's not playing Winston anymore, which makes me very happy. Did have a bit of a jaunt on the Lucio, which didn't quite work out, but then hopped back over to things like the Doomfist and his beloved Genji that he was so well known for in Season 2. So exciting to see him move back to some more comfort and more lining up with his playstyle, because Huxall was always fantastic to watch. As now the fans finally getting the series that they were waiting for this evening.
One tough kooky there, it says. Oh, that's going to be a meme for all time. Tough kooky. We'll see if he can be the tough kooky tonight that they need. So remember, MVP Space not guaranteed their spot, but a win gets them first place. It's been a pretty competitive group. This ended up being, surprisingly, the group of death because MVP Space did so well. Meta Athena was never expected to do this poorly. So if we had just...
Yeah, it was going to be Meta Athena if it was going to be one of these teams, right? And we were looking at MVP Space like, oh no, it's another MVP team that's going to be lining the fodder at the end of the round of 16. But certainly hasn't been the fact, and it's been the Meta organization that has pretty much turned into MVP for Season 4.
That's right. And, you know, Runaway did take their opening match very well against Meta Athena. That gave the Runaway fans hope, but they haven't been able to live up to that match expectation just yet. After they took that incredible win, they failed, of course, in their following match.
Yeah, it was a little bit unfortunate. And guys, we are going to be getting into this series very soon. And the exciting thing is the fact that we now get another Smack Talk video, so let's eat it up.
그때 운이 좋았던 거면 어쩌지 걱정을 했었는데 메타전 때 이제 확실하게 느꼈어요. 저희가 정말 강해졌구나. 조지명식 때부터 시작된 것 같아요.
누구?
우리가 만만하게 보였나? 농락하는 건가 우리를? 그런 생각이 들더라고요. 오히려 저희한테 자극이 되지 않나 싶어요.
장부상의 균형이 볼을 다 믿었어요. 거의 다 남았어요. 그렇지가 나왔어요. 피니시. 없나 게이트 쪽 피니시.
세 경기가 그냥 거의 다 99대 99까지 가는 그런 명승부가 나오고 있는 중.
쟁탈맵에서 무난하게 2대 0으로 이길 각이 보였는데 너무 아쉽게 져버려서 다 같이 멘탈이 나간 게 아닌가. 승점이 너무 압박이 심한데 목숨 걸고 3대1 이하로 한번 해봐야 되지 않을까. 예전에 MVP는 그냥 컨트롤 키를 뽑고 해도 이길 수 있을 것 같은 팀이었으면 지금 MVP는 등록된 키를 다 사용해도 힘들 것 같은 그런 팀?
지난 시즌들은 러너웨이가 언더독 같은 느낌으로 많이 치고 올라왔었잖아요. 근데 이번 시즌은 저희가 그 위치에 있거든요. 근데 러너웨이는 지금 솔직히 말해서 좀 하락세? 피지컬 외에는 별거 없다?
요익장에 과시하는 쿠키 선수를 진짜 모니터에서 없애버리면 이기지 않을까. 저희 팀의 강점은 제나타가 생각 외로 딜을 많이 넣는다? 딜 메달을 꼭 가지고 있는다? 그게 색깔이 금이다? 저를 믿어야 될 것 같아요. MVP 되게 오래된 팀이거든요. 진짜 오래된 팀 중에 하나인데 사실 커리어로 따지면 뭐 한 게 없어요. 그냥 광탈, 뭐 승강전, 16강, 잔류, 탈락, 다시 승강전. 영원히 16강이었으면 좋겠어요. 그냥 영원히.
열심히 하시면은 2등 좀 할 수 있지 않을까요? 이왕 이렇게 된 거 우승 한번 해보려고요. 저희 이만큼 강해졌으니까 더 분위기를 타서 열심히 노력할게요. 팬분들도 어깨 피고 다니세요.
Overwatch Apex Season 4, energized by Hot 6. Round Robin. Today's matchup, Runaway, MVP Space.
All right, so not necessarily the most fighting words coming out of both of these teams. I was expecting a little bit more action considering what is on the line for both of these teams. Runaway seem to understand that all the pressure is on, and they say that they're not the underdogs, but I still feel like they are, especially moving into this match.
Moving into this match, based on what we've seen in the group, they certainly are. When you looked at Group A at the beginning, you would have made the same decision Toby did when you put MVP Space in the group in group selection. Any wise man would have made that choice based on what we've seen from Space so far. It was really interesting to see that he said there, Kuki said, it felt like we got lucky the first time, but when we beat Meta Athene, I really felt it. I really felt like we've become so strong. We're so much stronger than we were before. And Runaway now has to face off against this strong team. MVP Space also, Kuki wisely saying, once you were the underdog team that overperformed, that surprised everyone, now we're in that spot. And it feels like a little bit of a passing of the torch here in a little bit of a way. If MVP Space does defeat them here with a tough score, then it just feels like Runaway, will they ever be able to recover? Tough ask right now. They have been struggling.
They certainly have. It's not necessarily the runners-up that we saw in Season 2, and Kaiser, I mean, he's on the roster. He is here, but he's not playing, at least for the first match.
That's right. It will be Tizzy coming back into play here as the tank. In their last match up against Lunatic Kai, he was absent. It was actually Janu who decided to flex into that role. Runner was in the booth. He's in the booth right now, but he's in there as a coach, as it will be Janu taking back the Lucio role here. He's in the captain's chair tonight. So it is going to be standard play for Runaway here. No Kaiser, and it was said multiple times on stream, it's been stated, And there was a bit of a conflict between the tanks on the team. It's all been resolved now, but Kaiser's still not comfortable enough on the Winston. Runner has been keeping him benched right now in this meta for a long time. People are wondering, would that Reinhardt Zarya meta come back to pass? We saw a lot of it in the World Cup. We have not been seeing it very much in Apex, though. That would be the time when Kaiser would come out and shine. But it's really rough because you don't go to Hybrid until map 2. If you sub him in there, you have to use him for the rest of the series. So it's really awkward to sub in a main Reinhardt player in this roster, despite his very long-standing history in Apex, his time on Cloud9. He's back here. You would think this player has so much more experience than Tizzy. Why would they use Tizzy instead? But based on Winston performances, that's why he's in the booth right now. And he's going to have to perform better than Janu did when they faced off against Lunatic Kai.
Yeah, and I'm actually really excited to see what happens when we head over to Hybrid as well, because we saw what MVP Space can do on Eichenwald, and what actually drew me to Runaway when I first saw them was their performances on that exact map, but it was based on Kaiser, it was based on Reinhardt play. And look, it's just not the same team. And if you look over this team, they've got Janu playing, he's played the most on Winston. What the heck is going on here? We were hearing from Cox, who's like, yes, Zenyatta is my character and does lots of damage and always gets the medals, but he's played Sombra, Pharah, Mei, Soldier, Reaper, Widowmaker. They haven't figured out what everyone's role is yet, Wolf.
That's a
let
big
alone
problem.
Get the coordination together to make themselves look like a better team. I mean, they were able to deal with Meta Athena very, very easily, but it was a lackluster performance at best against Lunatic Kai, a team that MVP Space were able to get that 3-2 victory over. And the 3-2, it could have been a little bit more if they had have done better on some of those situations that could come back to bite them, because that close scoreline could kick them out here if Runaway somehow get a breakout performance and get that 3-1.
That's why this match is so important for MVP Space. They want to dominate here again and just say it wasn't a fluke when we beat Lunatic Kai. Sure, no one will ever lie and say that it was Lunatic Kai's best roster they defeated. It was Taejun's first map back on the roster when he rejoined Lunatic Kai, coming through for the roster. They didn't have Who Are You? They didn't have Guido on the roster that day. They made no substitutions. That was when they won the match. We saw them face off against Meta Athena, and I think that's why Kuki said in the interview, it was when we beat Meta Athena that we realized we have become a stronger team, because that was not the Lunatic Kai that was your Season 3 champions that they defeated. And as you said, the scoreline was close. This is by no means going to be a one-sided match, I don't think. And Runner has brought all the cards to the table here, putting Tizzy in the booth.
Yeah, now we're going to be heading to Ilios for our first control map as well. Our first and only control map for this particular matchup, just because that is how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see what is going to happen. Of course, a lot of funny business can go down, and you can imagine that we're going to be seeing a lot of Pharah, especially out of Yaki, because his Pharah has looked phenomenal. Lighthouse, certainly somewhere where we could see that, but even on Well, certainly a lot of room in the sky. Get those rockets out from exactly where you want them to come from, and we will see exactly what Runaway does against it as well, because the Pharah player, I believe, theoretically is Cox, and then, bumpers flex to Mercy, things like that.
Sure.
But it's really confusing to work out what they're going to be playing when you're talking about Runaway.
Both Cox and Bumper flex so much, it's tough to know, man. But Kyokyu has been such a great guardian on the Pharah for Yaki. That's really what's empowered him, is Kyokyu's Diva has been really solid. So Runaway may just want to consider throwing the Pharah out and trying to go Soldier to knock that out of the sky and win the ground battle.
Well, we'll see exactly what happens as we head to Ilios for map number 1.
I get it.
Damn, Runaway have some fans, Wolf.
That's for sure, man.
Place erupted. But MVP still with some representation here.
Okay.
We'll see what these comps are going to be. What do you got for us this time, Runaway? Who's playing what?
Well, Haxel did play Lucio in that opening match. against Lutakai. Will be the case again here on Control. That's exclusively where he has played it. It'll be Janu on the Diva. This roster on the side of Runaway is all flex. No one is really on their main heroes here except Tizzy and Stitch. So you'd wonder about the coordination, as one fact we'll be looking to open here on the Widowmaker. He's only gotten one single kill this entire season on the heroes so far, playing it very few times.
Well, we'll see whether he actually lands it. Of course, Ruins, one of those maps where we see a lot of Widowmaker, to be honest.
Certainly.
Sightlines feeling a little bit better for that, but they're looking for the first cap as the point is going to unlock. MVP Space getting some time on it, but Runaway pulling that one back very quickly. Stitchy playing pretty nice so far.
Really good recall. Goku is down. It's going to be an opportunity just to get the flip here already. Runaway take the advantage.
Yeah, and Undyne is going to be able to grab Cox on the back end, but look at Stitch being able to pressure one fact. Really nice aim onto the Widowmaker, but forced to recall. Oh, gets it anyway!
Stitch, man, 2 critical picks here for this opening. He's one of the only 2 players who are playing on their main role here now for Runaway. Janu showed us only Winston when he was tanking. Now he's showing his first Diva really ever. Cox has played Soldier in the past when he was the DPS flex for Runaway back in Season 2. That was a long time ago, though. This is pretty crazy they're able to make this work with this ragtag group of flex heroes.
It's crazy. It's like, you can scout us, yeah, but do you know who's going to be playing what? Okay, Diva Mac is going to get chunked, but Transcendence is going to keep it up there for MVP Space. One fact on the back end is once again getting harassed and harangued out of this fight. Stitch picks up Undyne. We've got a backhand to the face for one fact as Stitch, oh my goodness, MVP Space need to figure out a way of dealing with him because it's just opening way too much room. Tizzy gets massive amounts of kills with that Primal Rage, but it's all about this Tracer disrupting everything for MVP Space.
I like that we got a boop kill there for Fuse, who's so famous for those at the end, but what I like more is that one fact, we'll switch over to the Doomfist here, which has been one of the counters to Tracer for certain players. One fact especially was just taking names against Tracer, hiding, capping them when they come into the backline, getting those picks, which opens up the backline so much more.
Oh god, and he comes in, gets his first Rocket Punch kill as well. They get rid of the backline. Cox is destroyed, and there's no support left as they're looking to aggressively take back this point. They want to do it before 99%. As Tizzy, he's going to go aggressive, try and utilize this Primal Rage just to buy this last 9% on this point. But one fact is going to punch him all the way out and is eventually going to pick up that kill. Not entirely sure what with, but he's going to grab Cox with it. Along the way, 97% gained by Runaway, but MVP Space now still with a lot to work with, and that one push was enough to get a Meteor Strike for one fact. We were toting this guy as the best Doomfist that we've seen so far this tournament, and I feel like with an entrance like that, it's looking pretty good.
Sure, it just definitely starts to feel you can more definitively say that. Yaki is going to look for the backline pick here onto one of the supports. Actually looking for Cox here. Won't get it, but with one fact together, that'll get the kill here. That's going to be a triple. Great coordination here from MVP Space.
Yeah, that timing was actually stunning out of MVP Space. Just pincer maneuver happening at exactly the same time as Yaki grabs a cheeky double on the back end saying, yes, Stitch, I mean, you played really well at the beginning to get that 97%, but we're going to try and tick this one up to 99 ourselves now.
I feel like Yaki has finally become one of the best Tracer players in this league. I haven't been
That is really hard to say as well.
I know, I haven't been as impressed suddenly by a Tracer player as I have been Yaki since Bunny, since Effect, man. He's so good on this hero, so accurate in the backlines, trying to get those support kills, trying to get the kills onto Cox on the Soldier. It's now switched over to the Doomfist, actually a weird flex again for this player who's played so many heroes.
Yeah, so many different options. He's going to get the uppercut kill onto Fuse, though. We'll see whether they can utilize that. Didn't necessarily have anything to work with, but now one fact is just going so aggressive. You can see the rocket punch timings are beautiful. Oh, just snap kills Stitch. That was stunning. Okay, Kuki going to jump around, does have the Primal Rage activated, but not sure why I pressed that button, to be honest.
Yeah, that's actually going to be really unfortunate. They don't have that to contest this final capture because Tizzy's going to have his for the flip. Yaki again looking for backdoor picks. Will get found here by Janu. Just going to try to trade some rounds in here. Okay, this is going to be a really important push for Runaway. They're going to have to use the Sound Barrier to lead into the final fight. Tizzy also dropped down his Primal Rage.
Oh, and Yaki's actually going to go down first. Bumper with some really key orbs to come in. We'll see whether those medals are actually going to come down for the player as well.
Self-destruct for QOQ, trying to zone here. Doesn't get any picks, though.
Yeah, throws it
That's
super
a
far, and that's
flip.
going to be the recap, and they're going to put it straight back into overtime, and that is ticking down very quickly. MVP Space need to get onto this point, and they do so, but they're losing members left, right, and center. Look at that, even the self-destruct grabbing the kill onto the mech. And this is looking pretty damn good. One Fact comes in and takes down Bumper, but he's immediately dealt with because they're only trickling forward. Finally, Yaki gets on, but it's desperation for MVP Space, and the tick down means that Runaway grabs first blood in this series. They're gonna have to keep this up if they want that 3-1, but this is exactly how you want to start.
Oh, very well played. Incredible to see with how many of these players are playing off roles in this match. We got Hacksaw on the Lucio. Sure, not the first time he's made that switch. Janu playing his first game of Diva. Cox playing pretty much every hero in the meta in that first control point. And I feel like this game was defined by Tracer play. Stitch really getting much more done when One Fact was on that Widowmaker. But when he made the switch to Doomfist, he couldn't consistently get the picks he was looking for. Had he been playing Doomfist the entire time, might have been a win for MVP Space, but Runaway takes that last critical fight. And Kuki using that Primal Rage, you kind of called him out for it there. And I think it's well called out because that really cost them big. Now Runaway takes a lead.
Yeah, and not being able to get all of your health back and then some is so important in that last moment when Kuki has been such a linchpin for this team. Okay, now they have the ability to go to the Pharah though, and you were talking about Tracer play being impressive. Yaki's Pharah, I have to admit, has been one of the most impressive out of the Pharah players that we've seen thus far. At the moment, you can see he has to deal with a very frustrating Janu on the Diva. I was kind of expecting him to be playing a support hero, but like, look, you do you, Runaway.
Okay, well, Cox actually does get taken out here. That means no hit scan to remove the spare. Look at this. No one's even touching him. Diva gonna melee him in the air? Yeah, okay. Not gonna be the best way to deal with the Pharah. This is going to give the flip to MVP Space here for first capture.
Oh, and Tizzy gonna go down very early on as well, as Stitch trying to get aggressive on the back end but can't finish off these kills. He's sort of the cleanup crew, but he's actually trying to hit high health targets just because nobody else is able to get any harassment in there, and Yaki is just raining terror from above. He's almost at that 90% mark, heading towards that first barrage so early on in the piece.
Cox,
22% now.
Cox is the most important hero on the side of Runaway right now. If he gets picked, then Yaki has free reign, and that's exactly what One Fact is trying to design to do here. When he makes the rare swap, only when Yaki is on the Pharah do we see One Fact play the Tracer. He's looking for the Cox pick here. Yep. Look at this again, free damage, no contest.
Yeah, One Fact is going to be able to take down
Barrage.
Stitch, but Cox doing so much work. Make that Yaki doing work, but the three-man res comes in immediately from Undyne, who has been another unsung hero from this MVP Space lineup, and they are going to tidy this battle well and truly after that. We've been seeing timings from Mercy players being a little bit off. It's not getting the single-man res when you need it. It's trying to wait and then getting picked off before you can get that big, juicy four-man res. That was beautiful because Undyne, well and truly safe, just saws his way through. He's the ambulance and picks it up. And of course, it's going to be changed soon, but it looks great here for MVP Space.
So much pressure on Cox means he has more abilities to be in good position. Here we see the sound barrier is committed by Hacksaw into the fight. Fuse will match it. And here comes the Pharah yet again. Who's shooting him? Nobody. He's up here alone. Deadeye not in range. He wants it, but he's already been called out. There he goes.
Oh, there it is. Nice timing. That was at the very end, though, for Cox. Undyne going to get stunned up and destroyed, and Runaway now looking like a team wipe for them as well. Kuki was actually running back, so I'm going to call it.
Well, the worst thing about this, though, and the thing that Runaway fans should be concerned about, is the only time Cox was able to kill Yaki is when he had the Deadeye, and even still he struggled. He finally got the angle there. But if that's how you're going to be doing with the Pharah, I think Yaki's going to be happy to stick with it. He's got another barrage available. They're going to have a res soon. All they really need is one more flip. So small celebration here for Runaway, but this round is not over.
Yeah, we got a pulse bomb flying through, but I believe that one was eaten as well as Yaki. Another barrage, like you say. Not going to quite do it, as Janu's going to be able to deal with him as he generally does. Hops back in the mech as well to recharge that health bar after picking up the kill onto Undyne, who can't be flying around when there's self-destructs to be avoided. But Pilot Diva, once again, no more defense matrix here for Runaway as MVP Space able to answer back once again. This recap coming in so quickly, theoretically, unless Cox can make something happen, but the barrier is going to say no to that.
He used a self-destruct to remech here, so he has that available. They do have a res too. There's the capture.
Yeah, they
Runaway
take
needs
it back
to get
up.
on it.
Yeah, and the picks are coming in. I mean, they only need a few of them, as that sound barrier was way too late from Hacksaw. who is once again on Lucio duty. You know that feels bad for a Runaway fan when you see the man that should be on Genji, should be on Doomfist, but no. MVP Space now at overtime. They've got that 99%. Tizzy's going to grab one as Transcendence was weighted out quite nicely, but Fuse dying with the sound barrier available, and he can now throw it down after the res. That is beautiful for MVP Space. He does so, and Yaki's getting healed back up, moving towards another barrage, and he kills Cox. That is his biggest adversary from Runaway. And this could be it. They're still trying to clean this one up, though, and I'm not sure whether it's necessarily working. Discord on the Mercy, but he gets himself to relative safety here as Huxall eventually able to get rid of Undyne.
Okay, Stitch very, very low. Almost gets taken out here by Fuse. Will survive for the time being. Doesn't get the kill on the Fuse. So many incredible Lucios in this tournament. Does go ahead and do the suicide here as he knows that they are going to lose this. Runaway making this competitive, but still Yaki has been the big problem. Cox has just not consistently been able to deal with him here, and he's the best option. Sure, Bumper can do some. Janu's actually done a better job of killing Yaki than anybody else, but very, very difficult when you struggle to deal with the Pharah on this map. Such an advantage for MVP Space.
Well, 72% MVP Space at 99. They just need to get that flip.
There's
Undyne's going to get picked with the Deadeye. Good positioning there from Cox, but Undyne didn't necessarily need to be there, and that was an easy one. Just pops him as he's heading around the corner. Not even a crit, man. This guy does a lot of damage. Of course, already a little bit softened.
He's doing so much more when MVP Space isn't diving him with one fact in the back, when Kuki isn't in the back line, when Cox can actually just sit back and aim the gun. It's a pretty good situation for him.
Oh, that
Here
was
comes
so
the
close
dive,
to the
though.
pick, and they get it. One fact is able to follow up, and Cox is going to fall. This is so important as Yaki's trying to get in position. Rocket Barrage perfectly timed to get rid of him after the Transcendence goes down. The two-man res even from MVP Space to get this recap, to get the flip, and to take this, bring us to 1-1 on Ilios, and that's how we wanted to start this series off. We thought it could be very close, and I want to get 3 maps here in Greece.
Looks like we very well will. Janu does get taken out here. Stitch going to be the last one to try to contest. We'll drop in the Winston as well, but there's just not enough. It's a trickle here. The flip is taken, and overtime is ticking down. As Stitch dies, so will the chances of Runaway taking this second round.
Yeah, the overtime should be ticking down relatively soon. There it goes. And MVP Space are going to bring us to 1-1. Oh, and that means that we get to see Lighthouse as well.
Right. Well, if Pharah is used on Lighthouse, which has been kind of a staple map for Pharah in terms of control, this map in Oasis, of course, the best Pharah maps we have in the pool currently. I think that sticking with the Pharah for Yaki, when your teammates have done such a great job of dealing with Cox, of diving on top of him, zapping Cox with the Tesla gun, and just basically knocking him out of the fight, meant that whenever he was pressured, he had to be too far back to kill Yaki, and then Yaki was damaging everybody else, helping to build ult percentage for his barrages. With all but the exception of one, we're very good. So Runaway is just struggling to deal with this Pharah, even though they did get a few Deadeye kills. Cox needs to have better protection, I think, before this is going to work well. And Yaki will stick, of course, with the Pharah, given the success there on Ruins.
Yep, I like it. So heading down, Justice raining from above, as it generally does. And yeah, once again, he's just... Yes, that's true.
You've got to be technical
I wasn't going to call you out. Just going to leave it. But you can see Yaki completely unanswered.
Oh, there's a
first
concussive.
Yeah, nicely done to avoid that by Bumper. Saves himself.
Sometimes it's not always about how good a Pharah's accuracy it is. It's about how little damage they take because they're losing. The ground battle is being lost by the opponent's team. But in this case, once it got cleaned up by Stitch, he couldn't last very long. The first few shots we saw him do there, including the concussive, he was taking no damage. He was just basically hovering there at full health nonstop. But once Stitch won the fight, he couldn't stay there anymore.
I like how we were watching Yaki and we're like, yeah, he's so safe. But hang on, the rest of MVP are dead.
Yeah.
So Runaway, understanding that, well, I mean, if we kill them really, really fast, I guess it doesn't matter whether there's a Pharah or not. They can make it into the Lighthouse, that is, as Cox is going to take down one fact. Nice little headshot there to start off this fight in MVP Space. Probably not able to grab this in a 5v6, as the Pulse Bomb was even available for one fact as well. Barrage now up for Yaki. But this composition not quite working as well as it was before. Rez is there, and that could be very important, but man, Cox
is bodyguarded here.
So hard right now.
He's got so many bodyguards, no one's diving onto him. When no one's there for the dive, he just does so much. Gets to get the pick on Diffuse here. I don't think that's all he's going to get. He's going to get more. Does help take out Kuki. And this is going to be another held push here for Runaway.
Yeah, frontline destroyed means that now they just have to get the hell out of dodge. And 60% now has been built up. QOQ had to jump off the edge. Some seppuku being committed as he wanted his mech back, and that's an easy way to do it.
So OneFact's going to make the switch now onto the Doomfist. Yaki will use his barrage. They do have the res available. This is going to be such an important push for space. They basically need this flip. They're already down in ultimates. They made the swap for OneFact. This needs to be them getting a big wipe and basically controlling Cox here so that Farah can actually get the cleanups.
Okay, Rocket going to be charged up. It doesn't find any picks to start this fight off, and it's actually Huxal that gets the work done. A single-man res from Undyne. Maybe not what they wanted because Yaki dies immediately. Didn't even get to throw down a barrage at all as Janu going to take down OneFact. Stitch is cleaning house as well. Runaway just looking like beasts possessed on Lighthouse. Seems like Well is in the past now as
there you go.
That is a ragdoll fuse getting thrown about, and the 2-1 successfully achieved by Runaway. And honestly, Ruins and Lighthouse, very different story from that of Well, dominating victories for the team that were coming in thinking that, you know, it was a 3-0 from Lunatic High over this team, and they lost MVP space. But Runaway just making that look like a moment in time that we ought to forget.
I think everyone has to give full credit to Stitch. Without Stitch dominating the ground battles there with the help, of course, of Tizzy, Cox would not have been able to get the damage done. He struggled so much on Well there when he just simply couldn't get shots fired. But when he had the protection, when he was never touched, it was really the story of can Cox fire or can Yaki fire? And if if Cox was protected, then Yaki couldn't get into position, was picked off several times. The accuracy of Cox actually very good, but when there's bubbles in his face, there's divas in his face, there's a tracer harassing him in the back line, he struggled. But when he was given that free roam to deal with the Farah, it felt like MVP Space should have made the switch earlier. And in fact, it's time for a tactical pause. Coach Kim here is going to come in the booth and probably make some suggestions as how this is going to play out from here on out. As, you know, it's got to be also a talk to have here. It looks like he's asking mostly questions in the booth as to what MVP Space felt like their weaknesses were. Remember, it's got to feel bad when you know that you're the favorite going into a series like this, and all you need is 2 maps to advance. You think you might be able to take the 3-0, just take first place in the group, and then suddenly you face this Runaway team where only Tizzy and Stitch are playing their main roles. Everyone else is flexing, and you get stomped on 2 of those matches there, on 2 of those rounds. It's going to be a big morale hit, and MVP Space is going to have to make some adjustments, and I think that's likely going to be on the Farah play. The question is, what map do we see?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that, Wolf, because Eichenwald feels like a decision that MVP Space want to make because they look so comfortable on that map, has been touted as their favorite. But picking that into Runaway with momentum can be a really scary prospect, even though there is no Kaiser, even though it's a very different lineup now as far as, you know, what made them good on that map. It still feels like, in the mind game, a dangerous choice.
Yeah, if you pick Eichenwald, we're not going to be seeing as here's Coxman. Look, no one's touching him. He's doing that damage. But we're going to have this map choice. If they pick Eichenwald, we're not going to see Huxal on the Lucio. He's going to be on the Genji. We're going to see the dive that got Runaway to the Season 2 finals, possibly even on the Doomfist fighting against OneFact. It's not going to be this ragtag group of flex players that's only used on control here for Runaway. The second time they've done this. In their first match, they did so as well against Meta Athena. So discussion definitely had here for Coach Kim as to perhaps they save Eichenwald for the later stages. Try to use OneFact, whose best map so far has actually been King's Row, to dominate the attack. Maybe that's the path you want to take here. Take the safer one. Even though you love Eichenwald, so does Runaway. So it's a bit of a risk to commit to it this early. You need 2 wins to get out of the group. You find yourself down 0-2. It feels like you're in your most dangerous position. You were almost guaranteed a slot in the round of 8. You were the underdog team that dominated the group, that shook the Apex fan base. And to lose it all here against a struggling Runaway would feel pretty bad.
Yeah, that's a disaster, but this is not a Runaway that looks like they're struggling. Yes, we don't necessarily know what to expect from the, you know, heroes that they're picking or who's going to be playing what role or anything, but you saw that highlight reel. Stitch is playing like a god today, and Cox, I was not expecting him to play DPS, let alone to play McCree to the level that he showed us, especially on Ruins, and he even had some moments there, as you saw on Well, that they weren't able to take. So, Wolf, I don't know, man. I feel like this is a reinvigorated Runaway. You saw Runner in the booth there as well. He looked well and truly committed to winning Runaway this series. Very serious. I mean, often you see Runner, even in losing situations, the guy is just calm, collected, having a bit of a laugh, but that wasn't that Runner this time. He knows how important this is to move Runaway to that round of 8.
And now imagine Stitch playing as well as he is with standard dive, with Haksal playing the Genji he's famous for, or the Doomfist here going into hybrid. It's a tall order for MVP Space to take momentum back now with the performance we're seeing from Tizzy, who's now playing his main hero. Runner, criticized for his Lucio play, not in the booth. Where are we headed? The parting words look confident from Coach Kim as he left the booth. I think King's Row is the safe choice, but we're going to Eichenwald. They take the gamble.
They're doing it. Okay, and look, I'm not going to call them out on this one because MVP Space looked phenomenal on that map, and Runaway are a different beast as we move over to this first hybrid of the series. I want to see a second one as well, honestly, if this series goes the distance. I know it's bad news for Runaway, but I just want more maps with these two teams because that first one was so close and so exciting just to see what the heck Runaway are going to be playing next. What characters they're going to pick, and yes, who's going to be playing what in what role. Like,
yeah,
it's just insane.
I think that very likely we'll see standard roles, though, coming out from Runaway. The 2-2-2 dive. Tizzy going on to tank. Haksal playing that Genji. Let's find out, Atlas.
Yeah, we'll see what happens as we move to map number 2. Okay.
Someone mistimed the cheer. They're going to do it again. There we go.
Thank goodness for that. I was like, did I miss the first? Was I too busy getting it and I didn't hear the cheer?
So in Korea, you say 1, 2, 3 before the cheer comes out. Usually someone stands up and designates themselves as the cheerer. I guess there was a rogue cheerleader, and she screamed too soon, so everyone just paused awkwardly, and then the main cheer girl did the 1, 2, 3 as Torbjorn and Stitch having a stare down.
Like how he just told him to get off the edge.
He's like, I want you to stop playing Torbjorn. He's like, we're not doing that defense, not on this map. Maybe a new body later. Okay.
Oh, that's adorable.
So,
I just like the fact that Stitch told Haksal to jump off the edge because he's playing his hero.
I actually worry for Space if they really do want to continue to run the Pharah. Okay, this is much better for this map, I'd say. We've seen some teams find success. Kongdu, Uncia, and Panthera back in the past have found success with the Pharah on this map on attack, but this is the more standard approach. Haksal will stay on the Lucio, though. They're running the exact same comp. Very shocking, very surprising. Last time they ran on this map after the flex plays on Control, they switched back to standard roles, but I guess this is what's working for them. If it's not broken, don't fix it. That's maybe what Runner told them.
But I really like this comp from MVP Space. They've shown that they are so comfortable running this, and
Cox.
It feels so meta right now as Cox just going to get launched on, and so many kills for MVP Space to open up Eichenwald. QOQ going to be taken out of the mech, but he's still alive, and Yaki just dancing around, no one answering him. One Fact just beating the crap out of everyone. Okay, that was quick.
Well, I guess if you're just going to run Flex Heroes again for Runaway, the MVP Space comp that dominated this map last time they played it, is going to crush you in about 30 seconds flat.
Could that have been faster? I'm not sure whether that, like, even if you're all just going to stand on the point and not do anything and just get killed, I feel like it's about that fast. To get a cap.
I'd say that's exactly what was going through my mind as well, Atlas, when I saw how fast that cap was.
That was silly.
So they're going to take this castle position here, which is very common to do when you have a hit scan player like Cox, who switched to the soldier now on the high ground. This is how he's defended when he was playing DPS in Season 2 on this map, on the castle.
Oh,
Stitch
wow. Very close to the pickoff, had to recall and gets back into a dangerous spot and actually gets the fadeaway onto Kuki. That pulse bomb was so well timed. And now able to claim this payload very early in the piece. Normally, we see this Streets phase move through quite quickly because you can jump up to this high ground, threaten it, And honestly, the best place to defend is up at the very top, after the drawbridge, where you can hold them off. I mean, the defensive bias is so huge, and often that's where we see the hold. But
when you're not running a dive comp, it's so strong, but MVP Space is. They're going to use that dive right now. Yaki trying to do what he can defensively here on the Tracer, holding on to the Pulse Bomb until that D-Matrix wears off. It's down now.
Yep, Sound Barrier does run through, and now it's Runaway that's picking up the kills. MVP Space, a lot of ultimates actually available as OneFact dives himself forward, but it's Runaway that are getting all of these. And despite the fact that OneFact, yeah, he's a real good Doomfist, but he can't 1v6.
That was really poor ult usage by MVP Space, who had the ult advantage now, using basically everything to try to take this. The coordination was really poor. OneFact should have at least, I mean, that was the most egregious one, should have held onto the Meteor Strike, should have just died there, given he was one of 2 members alive when he used it. Now diving onto this high ground to deal with the hit scan that Runaway has so well set up here.
Oh, that flank.
It's going to be so difficult. How are they ever going to deal with a soldier without hard engage? Genji can get up there much easier than a Doomfist can.
And as soon as any pressure is now put onto MVP, they've lost Undyne, so therefore they have to back away. And despite that being one of the quickest first caps that we've ever seen, this is also one of the best holds in this part of the Streets phase of Eichenwald that we have seen thus far.
Okay, Yaki holding on to this one. There was a tight corridor there where he could have maybe got the pulse, but he was hesitant. He's going to hold on to it now as well. Using it at the last moment there, but does get eaten.
Yeah.
Disaster again here for MVP Space.
Undyne gets the kill onto Stitch, but who even really cares? They're just jumping off the edge now to try and get the reset. And look at his face. He's adorable as it is.
Sure.
But when he's grinning like that and having such a good game, man, Stitch is looking good.
This is such an old way to play this map with the soldier on the high ground. Cox did this in Season 2 at the beginning of the season when he wasn't playing the attack Tracer, who was playing the defensive soldier up on the castle. MVP Space just can't get in there because Stitch is annoying them so hard in the backline. This is going to be their first opportunity. He misses the rocket punch, though.
Yeah, that sidestep actually looked really good.
And
but
the
look
triple.
at this. Janu comes in and just self-destructs all over everyone. OneFact gets one, but who even really cares? Janu's just going to pick up even more.
MVP Space looks shattered and broken here. They're struggling to deal with this castle. Tizzy is always waiting to dive when they go deep. He actually gets the counter dive into the backline when they try to go up there. They don't have the mobility of a Genji. They have to rely on OneFact with the Doomfist. Maybe he'll use a Meteor Strike to get up on top, but it feels desperate at this point.
Okay, Stitch does short arm that Pulse Bomb straight into a defense matrix. So good news finally for MVP, but Bumper is going to turn that around very, very quickly.
Kookie's dead too. They are running out of time here. Sure, they had an incredible time. Like I just said, could it have been any faster? But just looking at this makes me worried. Even if they have the big 6 push, they're going to go for the dive. But here's the counter dive coming out already from Tizzy. He's been waiting for this the entire time. Yep. And now Cox free reign.
Yep, he's got the tac visor, and it's looking like the damage is certainly there. But Sound Barrier is going to be invested here from MVP Space, and Yaki grabs the kill onto Stitch with the Pulse Bomb. QOQ trying to answer this high ground advantage.
Finally, Cox is down.
OneFact, actually brilliant spacing to make sure that he could pick that one up as well with the cooldowns that he had available. And finally, this payload seems to be moving around this corner, but with only a minute remaining, they're going to have to try and get it across this drawbridge and into the castle for the final point.
We've seen so many delays on this phase
and they've only got a minute.
Yeah,
it'll be in overtime, man.
The drawbridge is so difficult to cross. It will have to be in overtime, as you say. No ults to use here. Tizzy's just going to try to buy a little bit more time. Runaway did have ult advantage here. Does end up being a bit wasted. Will survive, it looks like.
I'd probably trade a Primal Rage for a Transcendence, though, if I'm a Runaway fan. Feeling pretty good about that one as self-destruct. Janu's just going ballistic. Why is he listed as a support? I just don't understand, man, because he is playing so well on this D.Va in the front line.
If they make it out of this group, I think they're going to have to resubmit their roster for the round of 8 for what their official roles are after this.
The ordering is well and truly
wrong.
Destroyed.
Yeah. The 2 DPS, 2 tank, 2
No, they
support
knew that
at the top.
Stitch was going to be playing Tracer.
They knew that.
That's it. That's like actually the only thing that's correct.
Well, Tizzy as well, I guess, is still in the warrior slot, or the tank slot.
That's true.
All right, well, this is going to be an opportunity for this delay again. Stitch is just popping off. He's on fire right now. He's on his main role. Cox gets the high ground again, and Space are down and out. A desperate self-destruct will find nothing, and now he has free reign to again tac visor. MVP Space, they're going to be halted here.
Yep.
That's it.
That is it. And the overtime is going to tick down eventually, unless this Lucio is going to get something crazy done. But even a sound barrier is not going to help.
One fact buys time, but once he goes down, I think that is really going to put the last nail in the coffin for this push. And Runaway with the flex roster, they have brought it back. And I was worried, Atlas, the second I saw the failed dive three times. On the third time, they tried to get the dive onto Cox, and they committed several ultimates. At that moment, I felt they will never get this dive. They're not familiar with the soldier defense there. They probably thought, as we did, Haksal would play Genji. It would be the Doomfist versus Doomfist, or the Doomfist versus Genji. And in that arena, One Fact is so confident. He's dueled against Tracers and won. He's dueled against other Doomfists, other Genjis, and won. But in this game, he didn't duel against either. Cox is on the high ground. Runaway takes their Season 2 strat and puts it back to fruition. MVP Space, with one of the greatest times we've ever seen on Eichenwald, falls flat. And now Runaway will have one of the easiest pushes in Eichenwald history to complete to take match point. What a story this is. What a surprise this is.
Yeah, and it was just so long that they held them off. Because, of course, they had to after what was such an incredibly fast point A. But, man, MVP Space, they're going to have to try and go for a full hold here, because I have not seen an Eichenwald with a payload not make it at least up towards the beginning of the drawbridge.
On the bridge, you touch the plank on the bridge, okay? You
Yeah.
at least touch the plank.
Yeah.
Stitch is just, I mean, he's the big fan favorite tonight. Many said he underperformed in Season 3. Tonight, he is the star, especially when you go back to Ilios. He was the one that helped carry the fights. He was the
Him
one
and
who helped
Cox
kill the
as well. I
ground.
mean, Cox's ult timings on whichever hero he's playing just look stunning. And we'll see whether they're going to keep their playful nature up as well. Because, I mean, that was an Eichenwald that they were just basically ordering each other to jump off bridges at the beginning and then just gave up point A like nothing happened, and then were impossible to move
And we've
at
seen-
that first position.
We've seen so many good self-destructs from Janu, who's played maybe 10, 15 minutes of it in his life before this on televised matches. And now he's playing it as his main hero and taking names. These role swaps have certainly been working for Runaway. One fact is going to take the defensive Doomfist, but Yaki will be on the Pharah. We've never seen Space really run this Doomfist Pharah. It's been mostly the Tracer Pharah. We'll see if this is successful now on defense.
Yep, well, Uppercut is at least going to disrupt the front line as the Winston's knocked into the sky, but nothing of note just yet. Runaway losing a few more health bars than that of MVP Space. Remember, that was just a really great defense, and if MVP Space can play it out the same way, they can still even out this series against Runaway. It's just a really tall order.
Yaki just playing it safe behind this pillar, only exposing himself when he knows Cox is out of the way. Communication really good here on the defense for Space. And when Cox is not in position, he can just simply shell the enemies here like fish in a barrel, and is doing so much with that. Already they've got a better time bank burned than Runaway did, so at least they've got square one.
But I'm still worried, no matter what, even if this point A is captured, I just feel like MVP Space won't necessarily have the tools to perform what was such an incredible defense from Runaway.
Yeah, they'll have to really play against their playstyle in order to do the same type of defense Runaway did on the castle. Fighting straight up is going to be a tall order since they've struggled with it so far. Okay, Cox looking for the Deadeye flank to get Undyne. Ooh, great pillar hide here, though.
Yeah,
the barrage
really.
as well.
He's actually going to throw the barrage in there, and they're going to be the ones picking up the kills. We've got a res only onto Kuki, as you can't res a mech, unfortunately. One fact, down relatively low, but this looks to be enough. MVP Space investing quite a lot, both of the support ultimates, in fact, and Stitch still being a menace running around the backline. Even though a few picks did come in, Runaway did not give up trying to get this point. They're trying to get to this first tick. Janu, pretty solid at the moment on this point.
Chasing down Undyne, trying to get the pick here.
Yeah, Discord actually making it pretty easy for the Diva to get enough damage.
But not peeling for the ground units here when he's up there in the sky. Will toss up the self-destruct now. Good angle, but just a little bit too high there on the explosion.
Yeah, One Fact actually trying to get some work done as QOQ gets the double. Cox and Huxall both falling down, but Runaway still alive, and more notably, Stitch is still alive, getting damage in the backline, chasing them all down as One Fact wants his cooldowns back and should be able to get them here, as Stitch knew that he couldn't stay face-to-face for too much longer. Or there was just a Meteor Strike to get him out of there.
Oh, he's just a little bit late on the rocket punch. He wanted that contest so bad. He used the Meteor Strike just for it. And now 3 minutes 40, not the time bank that MVP Space had, but such a shorter distance than MVP Space ever expected to go.
Yeah. This is looking real dangerous. MVP Space probably wanting to switch up this lineup as well. Yaki still will have, I guess, height advantage that he can work with in this phase, but it's a different story.
I think they want to use their ults once, but if he gets picked, that won't happen. Okay, good eat here on the pulse bomb coming out from the Diva there. Janu helping protect Stitch here. And they want to use that barrage and the res here before they make the swap, but it's not going to happen if Undyne is dead.
Look at how deep Cox is. Okay, just going to jump all the way through the back. He's going to get punished, but gets so much work done by picking off that Mercy who had the res available. And look at this. We are approaching that final point. The Runaway were able to stop MVP Space at dead in their tracks already.
Oh, Tizzy's trying to get the kill here during the barrage, but they need to get someone onto the point. The barrage kills nobody. They're holding on to that res. We'll see the Mercy have to get into position. There it comes.
Yeah,
One
lifts
fact
up
survives.
only one fact, and I mean, I know he's important, but right now he's struggling to deal with this. Look at the payload moving, but Fuse does make it onto that point. Thankfully, we've got a Winston on there as well for MVP Space fans, but they've got to do this. It's desperation. There's still 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And stopped once more, but this is so close. And Runaway are getting the kills. That's going to be that. They move to match point against MVP Space, the team that was 2-0 as far as match score so far, looking like the favorites in the group, now looking close to elimination.
And Runner, all he needs to do with his team is win the next map of Assault. Thought they might end up going down in this series early and would have maybe had to try to fight back, hoping they wouldn't lose those 2 important maps. They dominated both of them. MVP Space seems hell-bent on running the Pharah composition here, but it isn't working. And when Cox is given room to shoot, when he's given room to fire into midair, his accuracy has been enough to keep Undyne out of the fight. Janu on the Diva, incredible self-destruction. Also, he's helped deal with the Pharah in the sky, helped harass Undyne. The Discord orbs have constantly targeted down these air flyers. When they're out, so is Space. One Vac can accomplish a lot on the Doomfist, let's be real. But when the rest of the units are falling, when the rest of the air support is down, he can only do so much alone when the supports aren't there for him. They have a Mercy, so he's got half the support he's used to having because she's pocketing the Pharah, which is struggling so hard now against Cox. I think for Space, maybe the coach said, stick with what was working when you did have the success with the Pharah, but I think now is time to make a switch.
Yeah. It's just a little bit of a worry, and who could have expected this kind of performance out of Runaway? I mean, yes, we knew that they did have the potential. This is a team that's able to get work done, most certainly, but when you have everyone flexing, and when they were flexing before and it wasn't working, how is it this clean when you've got players playing all over as far as roles are concerned? It's incredibly impressive stuff out of Runaway. Guys, we do have a very short break coming in. When we get back, it is match point for Runaway.
에너지가 필요한 순간 핫식스와 함께 핫하게 즐겨라. 올여름 가장 핫한 리그 오버워치 핫식스 에이펙스.
Game, record, and stream without compromise.
Welcome back to Apex Season 4, ladies and gentlemen. And after MVP undefeated as far as matches so far, getting the 3-0 over Meta Athena, getting the 3-2 over Lunatic High, they are now down 0-2 against Runaway. And honestly, I don't know what's happened after what was an incredible attack to start off Eichenwald. They are about as present in that hybrid map after that point as they were in Season 2.
That's right.
Which is, for those playing at home, 0.
About as present as Luxury Watch Blue is in this tournament if you've been following Apex Season 4.
Oh, man.
And
we have been going in on Luxury Watch a little bit today, and I feel kind of guilty, but I also don't care because they're the jerks that left.
So MVP Space defeated, or tied, actually, Lunatic High on Temple of Anubis, actually, then ended up winning the Ilios tiebreaker. They also defeated Meta Athena on Temple of Anubis as well, so high chance that's where they take us here. But no, it's a surprise Horizon Lunar Colony. My first time getting to cast it here in Season 4. I'm very excited, but I'm also worried, as it feels like there's a little bit of that runner magic. Almost you can feel the runner pixie dust in the Runaway booth, as when he is pumped, whether he's in the booth or he's coming in between sets, you can feel the hype in the booth, you can feel the momentum is massively in favor of Runaway. It feels like OneFact is playing a little nervous, not able to get the kills he normally does, not able to push the boundaries of what Doomfist is as a hero. And Cox, man, he and Stitch have been the heroes tonight at range DPS. The protection has been there from Tizzy, and Janu has had some great self-destructs,
Janu has been
man.
outstanding, honestly. This guy came in with Diva as his third most played behind Winston and Lucio, and third most played also means his least played for this season. It's just absolutely incredible that this guy's able to affect the map so incredibly much. But guys, let's do it for potentially the final time tonight. Let's head to Lunar Colony.
get it.
Okay. Runaway fans, this is basically packed in here, guys. And yes, the Runaway fans are certainly very well represented, as you heard, by the Roar to start this one off. And they want this 3-0 because that will mean all of the hopes for MVP space then go to Meta Athena.
By the way, just to make Overwatch, just a side note here, just to make Overwatch spectating easier for someone who's maybe watching for the first time, OGN does distinguish in the UI. DPS is the first two, tank as the second, and then for the last two, support. And for the first time in this series, they have appropriately labeled the DPSs, tanks, and healers for Runaway since they did it 2 of 3 games. I suppose OGN put them in the lobby on their roles.
Around.
But they messed up and put Haksal on the last support, whereas today he's going to be, I guess, in this map specifically playing the Ana instead. Just trolling OGN production. MVP Space is going to run what worked for them in both the series against Lunatic High and the series against Meta Athena here with the 2-2-2 on attack. No surprises on their surprise map pick. And they need to get a good time here, just like they did on Eichenwald, to keep the hopes alive.
Well, actually, I do like this map pick, honestly, for MVP Space, just because they are a team that likes to play around one fact. They like to play around the Doomfist. And as you can see, Cox not necessarily showing the great performance on that one. And MVP Space are capitalizing right now. One fact gets his first punch off, and you can see it should be pretty quick for MVP Space on this attack to start things off.
Very common on Horizon, though, for this first pick to go this quickly on point A. So even though the time bank looks like if you're a Hanamura person, if you're a Volskaya person, you're probably starting to get...
shaking in your boots.
Getting a few monkas in the chat. You know, you're a little bit stressed out for Runaway, but Cox played the Doomfist. Remember, he's not very well versed on the hero. And Reaper is much more common if you want to mount a defense like this, but...
Don't worry, got the practice in, guys. Manages to get the pick off onto Undyne. The lying in wait strategy that we see so many Doomfists, especially on this patch, managing to get done.
I mean, how many heroes does he have left that he hasn't played yet this season in this
Well,
group?
actually, yeah, you could add Doomfist onto this list of Zenyatta, Sombra, Pharah, Mei, Soldier, Reaper, and Widowmaker. And McCree.
That's right.
Okay. McCree's a new one for this series, guys.
That's right. Okay, well, he's going to look for another pick here. Does fail to get it this time. The Space is just trying to do a little bit of eco pushing to look for the big 6. They do get the pick onto Cox, so Doomfist battle 1 here. They have the Transcend to secure that. Looking for the second one here onto Haksal. Does use this to avoid the sleep. Gets the pick.
Oh, enough as well, even after the grenade for the healing. He does go down in the end, but has he created enough havoc for them to get this pick off? They've got the first tick already. They've got 6 minutes in this time bank. Of course, defender's advantage will be there, so they'll be able to get the respawns to come back in. But we've seen this map do this before, where the caps can come out extraordinarily quickly. Tizzy comes in with a nano boost, though, and this could turn the tide for Runaway, or can it? Because they've already lost their D.Va yet again.
All right, Haksal was so pressured there, was taken out early. Yaki now with full reign of this point. They grab the second tick here. Such a great start for MVP Space, who have so many more minutes to work with, even if they do have to back off now, and the push has ended. Cox using the early jump in there, using his ult to actually keep that second tick alive for a little bit longer, but he didn't have it for the longer contest. But finally they do survive, but they're going to have to survive for a lot longer, and QOQ is going to, of course, do the D.Va switch. Don't be fooled, he will not be playing Reinhardt here, just need to remake. And MVP Space used everything, rightly so, because they were very close to getting the capture.
Yeah, now they only need 1 tick, so have a couple of eco pushes and, you know, you could get all of your ultimates up and get some work done at about 3 minutes in. That feels pretty good for Horizon here. But they still have to do it, though, Wolf, and we've seen that Runaway have been stalwart in their defenses, and point B, definitely a different story than that of point A. Self-destruct is going to get thrown out.
Not one of Yaki's most proud first-person views there, missing to get 3 kills he was looking for. Zitch is nearly about to have this tag visor. Cox in a great position for this one, gets the double.
Big double kill, and that is going to slow down MVP straight away. Okay, hunting for more as well, as it feels like Cox is really getting his eye in onto this Doomfist right now.
It's so cool how Doomfist works with his Rocket Punch because it gives him the opportunity to be aggressive, but because it has a channel time like that, you can actually turn around and go back. Whereas for Genji dive, for example, when you press the shift, you're going in no matter what. There's no back, there's no retry button, so does end up turning around here. MVP Space using a lot for that push and failing yet again, so that time bank is diminishing. But they've still got a lot of opportunities to make this happen. Huxel has been pretty good on this Ana, not what he's known for.
Okay, One Fact is going to get punched.
I guess we're just doing some Runaway fan service observing here for a second. But let's see
what
how
else is going on right now.
Let's see how Kuki decides to engage here because he has the Primal Rage available. We'll have another one if they want to do the big 6. He has time to build it. I think he's going to be the big one to look for the opening so that Yaki can get the Pulse Bomb in while the dive is there when the disarray comes in for Runaway.
Yeah, here comes that was a lot of time actually lost as Tizzy's going to jump in with the Nano Boost. Stitch already starts off the fight with a Helix Rocket kill though. That will spell the end of this shove for MVP Space. Can the staggered kills come down for Runaway though? Because that's what they're looking for. What they want to do is buy as much time as possible to get this hold, and MVP Space will be so frustrated because they only need that one more tick to come through to lock this one down. They've got 3 minutes to do it, but it's feeling less and less likely as Runaway are just digging their toes in.
Okay, looks like they want to try to catch the dive here from Tizzy to lead off the fight. They get Bumper actually first. Tizzy's very low, has to use the Primal Rage. It's actually matched by Cookies here.
Yeah, Transcendence going to fly through as the self-destruct comes down. MVP Space still investing more, but Janu yet again picking up kills with the self-destruct. He seems so good at it these days. Yaki answering back as Tizzy's going to be taken down. Frontline being disrupted as One Fact gets rid of the mech, which is so important.
Good angle here, actually trying to zone. Very well done. Looks for the pick on the Huxall.
All right, still more kills coming in, and it's Cox that takes down One Fact. QOQ now in the pilot form is just chased down and destroyed. And look, it was one tick. It felt like MVP Space were on the point for a long time, but Runaway just so good at holding on.
MVP Space looks like the reason why we're watching so many of these is he's going to try to get a kill into Huxall. We don't have Huxall's perspective, but doesn't actually get it here. He's taken out by Cox midair. Huxall survived so long. The reason why it looks like there's these moments where MVP Space is doing nothing for these pushes is their entire game plan is to catch the tank, Tizzy here, pick him off first, and then win the point. But Runaway is just not taking the bait. They've dove in with Tizzy a few times, but they do it safely like this with the Nano Boost. He does get picked eventually in this fight as Caster Curse strikes again.
Yep. Yaki runs off the edge, but they are able to follow this up with some decent kills. One Fact on the high ground is going to get taken out. Cox just launches into him and takes him down, and he's now looking to try and disrupt this. They've moved the meter up just a little bit further, but see these kills still reigning supreme. Orb of Harmony brings Cox all the way back up to full health. And man, I mean, from at the beginning, Cox got just smashed, honestly, by One Fact. Now, One Fact's moved over to the Soldier to try and deal with how effective Cox is on the defense on this Doomfist.
When you are playing your 10th hero you've played for the season, and you're defeating what was touted by many, including us at the beginning of the series, the best Doomfist in Apex Season 4, beating him 1v1, your team is destroying him. Gonna feel a little bit bad to be an MVP Space fan right now. It's already the pick of the cookie. This is going to possibly be the end of this one.
Yeah, it's a 1-for-1, so at least it's 5 versus 5 for the moment, but you can see the positional advantage that Runaway have. They're onto this point just fine. Seismic Slam does get Cox in there, still had the Rocket Punch available as he's now set up once again. Anyone walks around that corner, they're going to take way more damage than they should.
Oh no, they
and
needed
it's going to be Undyne. They did not want him to be taken out of this fight.
Now they're going to have to wait for him to respawn. They're going to have to buy time while he comes back. He won't have a support ultimate. It's going to be Fuse who drops the sound barrier first. This has to be their fight. Oh, they're not getting the cap, Atlas.
We've got another Nano Boost coming down on top of Tizzy, though, so everything that they're working for could be all taken away now as One Fact is able to get that kill with the attack visor. Takes out Stitch as well, but now they've spotted him. Now they're going to disrupt him. MVP Space, it doesn't seem to matter, though, as they've got themselves onto this point. Are they going to be able to do it? Oh, my God, yeah, Huxall just standing on this one. It isn't going to be enough, and in overtime, they're able to get the cap.
We'd have thought that this series was going to be defined by Doomfist versus Doomfist or Doomfist versus Genji. We thought that very likely One Fact would be dueling with Huxall in this series. he found
Yeah.
himself doing with Cox instead here on Horizon. They had a massive ult advantage. Their one shot that they took was very reminiscent of what we saw from Godsby on Numbani earlier tonight, was to get One Fact onto the high ground. Then Cox tried to dive him, but he had too much protection. They already had the picks with him when he used his tac visor. That was their one moment, their one opportunity to get several kills on the high ground there. They did it. They got the point captured. A very close call, but I think the big takeaway point from this is actually how clutch of a moment that was for Space to stay so perfectly coordinated when everything was stacked against them, when they only had one chance left. This was their last push. Doomfist has been destroying One Fact all game long. He's now playing the Soldier, but they executed everything in that moment perfectly. We talked about how it looked like One Fact was playing a little bit nervous, how Space has lost momentum in this series, but at least they were able to make that last push work, which means that at least now they have a little bit of momentum on their side. It feels like finally things went for just 1 second according to plan.
Yeah. And this is fantastic news for MVP Space. I know, like, you've got a heck of a lot of time for Point B to try and take that one down, but the fact that they did it, the fact that now, even if Runaway are able to get that cap, we are going to be going into those tiebreaker matches based on time banks, and they'll have that extra minute to try and get work done yet again, because if they can get that first cap in the time that they were able to last time, then they'd be looking good. They'll have much more time to work with after that. So initial cap comes in.
Mirror comps here. Sure, off position for Runaway, you could argue, but maybe we have to argue this is the new Runaway lineup here.
This is the new on position, I think.
Yeah, so Runaway is going to be running mirror comps here. Cox versus One Fact again for this first push. MVP Space more famous for this comp, and they found a lot of success with it twice now on Eichenwald and on Horizon. Will Runaway be able to find the same? That's the big question. Good movement here.
Fantastic rocket punch denial though onto One Fact, as Yaki's actually going to be the one that opens up with the first kill, but still Runaway able to get work done. Okay, punching him out. One Fact still proving himself as one of the best Doomfists. We know that that is certainly still the case. It was just Cox being able to answer nicely. He's now in the death chamber, needs to find his way back in, but Stitch still running around, full health, has recall.
Oh man, Dearly gets the pick here. Great control by Fuse, who's made a name for himself in this tournament based on his ability to deal with dive heroes so successfully, like Toby. Very similar type of play style.
Oh, One Fact gets picked off as Stitch is actually looking for the pulse bomb, doesn't get it. They are still ticking this one up. They are so close to getting this cap about as quickly as MVP Space were, and they are going to be able to do it. The kills are coming in, and Runaway looking just as good as MVP Space on the attack. But remember, Point A on Horizon is like this because it's a little bit silly.
26-second deficit Runaway has to work with.
Yeah,
very
this is
small
the danger
window.
time now, though.
Yeah, this is the danger time indeed. Tizzy gets picked off here by Undyne's right click, it looks like. But now, you know, we're in a very similar situation. As you said, it's very common for this to get capped early. One Fact's going to make the switch again onto the Soldier. We'll try to control Point B this time on defense against Cox's Doomfist dives. Controlling that high ground, having the range damage, well, the soft counters to Doomfist right now in this meta.
Well, big ults have actually been gained here by Runaway. They're waiting for the Meteor Strike for Cox to tick over to have those 4 ultimates that they want to start this fight up. But Cox already so low. Transcendence brings him all the way back up though, and he's built up that ultimate. Yaki now getting pushed all the way out of the fight, and Fuse has been destroyed to begin this one off. Self-destruct flies up to get everyone off this point. No one is going to get taken down by that one. Tizzy in the meantime doing some work. Bumper is going to be answered as well though, as Cox is doing so much work. They're going to get rid of the mech. You may as well ignore the pilot Diva as Cox throws out the Meteor Strike now. Doesn't find too much joy with it, but Huxal on this battle, Lucio, is taking names.
So close to this tac visor, which could help them set up the defense here. May actually coming out here to buy time for Undyne as well. He's very close to the Blizzard. Looks like this will finally be shut down. No ticks on the side of Runaway. So remember, we talked about it was only a 26-second time deficit they had to work with. Now they're down on ultimates, and they didn't get a single tick. Space got 2 ticks early. First tick very quickly. Second tick came in around this time. And so Runaway is starting to feel a little bit nervous, you have to think, given the situation they're facing. Definitely not getting the ticks that MVP Space did, and they invested a lot trying to do so.
Well, Stitch was being very cheeky, trying to get a bit of a backdoor cap off, but doesn't find it.
Cox wants to 1v1. One Fact again, well, going onto the Soldier because his Doomfist couldn't close the distance anymore.
I wanted him to do this though, because his hit scanners looked so much better. Yes, he had some great moments on the Doomfist, but it's been all about his McCree, all about his Soldier that has looked so good so far this series. But right here, it's not necessarily because that whole front line has been eviscerated, and it's all because of Yaki. Look at this guy go. I mean, Pilot Diva is not necessarily a kill you want to celebrate, but the fact that he was able to take down the mech in the first place shows that MVP Space knows what they want to do, and that is get rid of the front line, meaning that there's no peel for the back line. They have to get the hell out of Dodge.
I think the cool thing about it, too, is just how they're doing it so coordinated on this map. They've clearly practiced this map for an emergency situation where they might need it, and they're basically doing it very ult efficient. Runaway's been much less efficient in terms of ults. Hawks is going to try this desperate attempt, but this was never going to work. He was not in a safe position. Not entirely sure why that was called out, as he is going to be the first to die.
Yeah, Bumper throws in the Transcendence there as well. They think that they've got a chance here, but MVP Space, they're the ones picking up the kills. Nothing to be gained by Runaway at all.
Nobody dies on the side of MVP Space. That tac visor is expensive for
And
Cox.
that Transcendence was insane.
Yeah, I mean, now MVP Space has 6 ultimates. They've been defending properly. Their positioning on point B has been vastly superior to that of Runaway. Bumper's going to actually make the switch here to the Reaper now. They're going to try to make the May Reaper work, which failed several times when they were hell-bent on running it on Anubis in their previous series against Lunatic High.
I remember when Bumper was a tank. That feels like
a long time ago.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Well, this was what they tried to make work on Anubis. It certainly did not for the majority of their attempts. Just going to be eco pushes trying to build for this.
Okay, yeah, so they want the cold Beyblade, I guess, is the theory. And they're going to throw down another support ultimate very aggressively, probably trying to buy some auto attacks coming out from Bumper just to try and charge that ultimate up, but it's MVP Space that are getting these kills. Self-destruct flying forward, and yes, it was an eco push, but my god, MVP Space made it pretty easy to repel.
Let's remember, too, that this is still a very viable time bank for Runaway. MVP Space got it in overtime.
Yeah, very true.
The self-destruct did build about 60% of both the Reaper and the May ultimate. Stitch is now switching over to the ranged soldier. Wants to have some extra ranged DPS when this happens. They lost the self-destruct, but this is still reasonable. They still have plenty of time to build up the 6 ultimates. It looks rough. It looks like MVP Space has their number, but we're still in early times with this. Now, if they use the combo when it fails, that's when you should start worrying if you're a Runaway fan.
Oh,
look at this.
There's the right click onto Yaki, just flicks it. And that means that Runaway now with the man advantage. We'll see what they can actually get done here. As Cox is so close to getting that Blizzard. Bumper so close to that Death Blossom, and he's going to lock it down right now. Janu is going to take out Kuki, and we've been talking about frontline being missing, being so bad for these guys. As Bumper just getting these shots in.
They have the combo. This could be it. Blizzard first.
Yeah, they're waiting for the Transcendence to finish. As Death Blossom flying forward. It's the Blizzard that finishes off QOQ, but it's not the amount of kills that they were looking for. One fact, now with the tac visor, but a fantastic wall is going to deny most of it. Kuki getting in there, so Primal Rage is exchanged from both teams, and Yaki, as he comes back in, he's able to take down the key targets. They were able to get 2 ticks, but I'm not sure whether it's going to be enough. Now a minute and a half on the clock, and Runaway need to charge up these expensive ults yet again.
And this is when you start to worry as a Runaway fan, because building these ults in a minute 15 is just simply not reasonable. The runbacks are too long. You won't be able to fight the sustained battle when you only have one support to fight the long battle to try to desperately get those ultimates. It's not reasonable. It's going to take a miracle for them to get this. Support ultimate's almost ready for space as well. One fact does have control of the high ground. It's going to take a miracle for them to close this one out. And they don't have a lot of tools to build it. It's going to be the self-destruct that tries to give them enough for those charges. That's all they have in terms of initiation here.
Yeah, Cox forced to use his Icebox very quickly as well, so not
Yaki
gonna have
survives.
That. Try and hold himself honest. Tizzy's going to take down Yaki in the end, but yeah, survived for a very long time. Stitch with the tac visor did not find anything at all to talk about. They're ticking up this point, though, as Undyne comes in with the Transcendence.
Kyoko gets his mech, survives it. He wants that self-destruct. Doesn't think he's going to get it.
He's going to find the first kill, and Stitch is getting doubles. There's no defense matrix now. As Runaway are finding kills exactly where they need to. That's going to be that.
That was
and
the miracle.
And they get the bigger time bank as well, as there's no overtime available. The extra 20 seconds could be important now for Runaway.
They hit it right in the window before all those support ultimates were ready, before the self-destruct was ready there. On the side of MVP Space, Kyoku was at 99%. And when he was demacked, when I saw it in the UI, I wasn't even sure if he self-destructed or not. He was that close to having it, which would have bought them so much time. They hit it right at the perfect window. They did it without the combo. They did it with the pick they got onto Yaki. Then they busted up the rest of the front line. It was easy for them to take it from there. And as you say, they have the time bank advantage. It is very slight. And we know how quickly Point A was captured for both teams, so don't celebrate just yet if you're a Runaway fan. This could absolutely still go for MVP space. But they had such a solid defense for so long. I think in terms of momentum and in terms of just morale for these two teams, definitely advantage Runaway. Knowing they still have 2 lives left in this series, MVP space will have to take 2 wins in order for them to knock them out of this group. And it's not over yet. This is still their map to win. They could take the 3-0, the toughest win condition for Runaway. No one predicted them to take the 3-0 here and advance from the group, but they are just 1 overtime extra round push away from doing so.
Yeah. And this is also a very important 3-0 as well for Runaway, because when they are pressured, when they are put to the line, I mean, we saw against Lunatic High back in Season 2, it's these run-back victories. Runaway got so close, and then they didn't have the tenacity to go that extra mile to finish off the series early. We'll see whether they can do it now, as Cox already going aggressive. They're looking for the kill, as Cox does fall down, but Tizzy finishes off Undyne, as well as they even this one out, and Stitch just going nuts right here on this Tracer. But Fuse is able to take him down. The Battle Lucio often the answer to these aggressive Tracers.
Got to stop this cap, though. Yaki gets on it here. They can't let that tick go through. It goes through regardless. Yaki not getting the picks he wants fast enough. Okay, looks like this is going to be the capture here.
Yeah, just giving up there by Runaway.
So they're going to get a little bit of time to work with. 30 seconds is what's added. Runaway just couldn't get onto the point fast enough after that wipe came through. Yaki's got the pulse bomb. Fuse is going to have a sound barrier. They could, with the miracle push here, again, take that first tick. The Meteor Strike is the one they want to build up for the extra survivability. The Primal Rage as well. They need the longer fight win, and here comes the sound barrier.
Yeah, that's going to start this one off. Every tick is meaningful now for MVP space on this attack, and Stitch is going to start off by grabbing that pulse bomb successfully onto Undyne. And one fact, he's going to answer though. Cox is going to fall down. A lot of the DPS now missing is Tizzy going aggressive with the Primal Rage. But in goes one fact. The Meteor Strike is there, but Hoxile, he survives for so long. Off the point goes the Doom Fist, as now we've got Transcendence from Bumper, trying to keep everyone up, and Runaway look like they're able to stabilize. No ticks to come in just yet, and we've got the overtime now ticking down. Runaway should have denied it here on point B.
No one's able to get through. That's the push off. Overtime ticking down slowly here, but that is going to be it. They get the defense here on point B. Oh, they will have to match this at least. They have an opportunity and 21 more valuable seconds to actually complete this, get that tick on point B.
And I feel like this will come down to overtime once again, though, Wolf. I feel like point A should be a wash. I mean, this is Horizon after all, and getting point A is not too hard. Both of these teams looking very good on attack at the same time, but I still think that defending while you've got that advantage with respawns, with all that sort of stuff, it will again come down to overtime, and I wouldn't be surprised if we go to another control point.
This is now where MVP Space is most mortal in this series and in this group. They were in first place, and remember, this all relies on Lunatic High winning against Meta Athena, but everyone else has, and everyone else has dominated. So you have to, as we went into saying at the beginning of the series, put that assumption on the table that they will defeat Meta Athena, which would knock MVP Space out of the group. So right now they feel most mortal. And it is going to, again, go down to this mirrored comps. Cox's Doomfist against what was touted as one of the best this season in one fact. Yaki against Stitch. Yaki, the newcomer who defeated Taejun in the opening match against Lunatic High, against Stitch, who's always been a Tracer main. He's one of the only players on Runaway who's playing his main role. He and Tizzy, who's played a lot of tank, or a lot of support, by the way, used to be a support main.
Yeah.
So this is going to be the last battle basically to determine whether we go to that tiebreaker round or not.
Well, we'll see whether MVP Space are going to put up most of their defenses here on point A. Of course, it is very difficult to do so. As now Kuki drops down
Bumper's
one
down.
back. Yeah, he does get his first punch in as Yaki's going to take down Cox. So nice start here for MVP Space, and every one of these seconds counts on the defense. If they can stop this quick cap from coming in, which they have by the looks of things, at least at the start, that is certainly good.
Okay, and Runaway now one extra push available. Janu does get off the map, will be able to respawn here with the Diva mech. They don't have any ults. I mean, how could you build ults with a push failing that quickly when you have such a low time bank? MVP Space is just going to set up again for the dive when they come through. Already scouted here by Cox. Sees the Winston on the high ground. He's going to take the low ground approach actually here. Very well done. Already scouting out the defensive positioning of MVP Space. They're going to take a different approach around the side here.
Yeah, Cox actually being very, very patient as far as his positioning, but that may have spelled the death of the rest of his team as Yaki's going off. QOQ able to finish off Stitch there at the same time, and finally, Cox makes his way forward to try and start taking people out. But with a man disadvantage like this, it is so, so hard. And MVP Space are looking really, really good. We've got 2 seconds to go, and they're getting kills at exactly the right time. One Fact finishes that one off, and that's the hold.
MVP Space make this a series. And now they are just halfway there. One more win guarantees them second place in the group. Two more, would give them the 3-2 victory, would knock Runaway out of the group. They would take first place. But it's a long road, though, and it has not been easy. Very fortunate for them, they were able to show 3 times in a row, actually really 4 times, their opening picks with the Doomfist on attack on these control points on Hybrid or Assault. They take them with their first push. They're so coordinated. They're so experienced at this. And that's what won them this map, really, at the end of the day, because they were able to stave off 1 push from Runaway. Their first push got them the tick that wins them this map. They avoid playing control, which they lost on in game number 1. So razor thin here, but it's MVP Space using the talents that they had to go through here. And it looks like we're no shy of tactical pauses tonight, as now Runaway is going to call Runner into the booth.
Yeah, they're going to need him. They need to choose their escort map, and this is what it all comes down to for Runaway. Of course, not for MVP Space. They still need to win game number 5 if they get there, but this game number 4 is exactly what everything hinges on and for Runaway.
Look at this mystery man in the booth. Kaiser steps into the booth for the first time in this best of 5. Doesn't mean he's putting his keyboard on the table. We won't know just yet, but he comes into the booth. Where are we thinking here? Route 66, I think, is a solid choice for the playstyle of Runaway. MVP Space being so hell-bent on running the Pharah, maybe you bait them into that Pharah play there and you end up shutting them down. Sombra play has been strong for both teams as well, something that will be definitely a big consideration going into this. I feel like MVP Space has shown the better Sombra so far, though.
I don't know, it was Cox that picked up the Sombra, and as far as how much he's popping off today on any sort of hit scan that we've seen him play, I don't necessarily feel like you can give the Sombra play over to MVP Space anymore after the initial performance of this Runaway squad.
Feels like this is it. Even though this series will not be decided if MVP Space wins this next map, if they win it, they get out of the group. If Runaway wins it, they do not. And that is, assuming, again, Lua Takai wins that match against Meta Athena. So this map is the most important, which is why we are going to have this tactical pause used by Runaway, as we're going to see Cox again with some incredible drop downs here. The setup defensively was really good on the side of Runaway when it came to defending these points, and it's just crazy to me that Tizzy can switch so quickly back to the tank player he was not, shown in the match against Lua Takai, was not subbed in, while today he's playing so well. Janu is playing the Diva that he only played 15 minutes of game time on before, like it's his best hero in his pool.
Yeah,
and
absolutely amazing from Janu, honestly. And Huxel moving back to the Lucio once again is just a little bit insane for me, but I do like it just because Lucio is now one of these more aggressive supports that can deal with Tracer, that can get in your face, get the boop kills, things like that, start things off. I mean, it does sort of make sense, but it's just not what you feel a Genji player is going to be known for necessarily, It doesn't feel like one of those easy switches. Well,
does not look like we're seeing the Kaiser sub here. Remember, too, that the map that we saw, One Fact, destroy Tracer players on more than any other map, and I've heard about this in scrims, was Dorado, where he actually looks for the snipes onto Tracers that are running by. He destroyed Prophet last time we saw them face off against each other, and this kind of play can be strong on Dorado if One Fact wants to play the Doomfist there. That's how it's going to be. And remember, too, at the same time, that if we go into Route 66, if Cox is who you're afraid of, if you're afraid of the Sombra, then you want to dodge that map entirely. So Dorado could be the go-to here. As we did see One Fact run the Widowmaker, I don't think it was promising enough to say, let's take Gibraltar as the map choice.
I think it's always a good idea to go to Jibby, Wolf. I think that Jibby's always a good choice.
We might get gypped, though.
Oh, hilarious jokes. Well,
All right.
Runaway, the tag pause is over. They're looking confident, and they are set up to get this 3-1. I thought it was a pipe dream, honestly. I thought MVP Space were going to continue their dominance, but I feel like we've stepped back to Season 1, stepped back to Season 3, where MVP Space were not a team that deserved respect. After their first 2 matches, they looked like it, and we're going to Route 66 to decide the fate of both of these teams.
This is Space's nightmare if Cox is going to play the Sombra again to full fruition. Don't necessarily know that that's how they're going to play the composition, though, with the position swaps we're now seeing from Runaway. It could just be Cox going back to the McCree, taking the high ground approach there with the Soldier on Big Earls, just dealing with the dive that they dealt with so well on Eichenwald. Big Earls is a similar high ground position, not as tough to dive as the Castle.
That's what I was thinking about as well. Yeah, if they've got that coordination once again, that is so scary for a potential full hold before even point A.
Yeah, that's what MVP Space struggle with the most. Now, sure, Big Earls is not as high as the Castle up there where they had that great defense on Eichenwald, but it's a very similar style of play that could gain a huge advantage here for Runaway.
Yeah, super dangerous stuff for MVP, but they are still in this series. We'll see whether they can bring us to game number 5 as we head to Route 66.
I get it.
All right, Space fans finding their voices after the victory on Lunar Colony did bring them back.
Runaway.
Ryan looking at a little bit of a potential switch over. He's played this one before.
Oh boy, I've seen this before too, the Yakifara.
Oh dear.
It's been a struggle. If Cox does continue to play the McCree, we talked about it, might just be what he takes over the Sombra on attack. Okay, they're gonna make the swap. It looks like this makes me feel better.
If you're gonna play Sombra, I feel like the Soldier is almost necessary for the healing field. Just otherwise, it just feels like you don't have enough sustain.
It's like, well, what are you even trying to accomplish with the Pharah in that situation? He doesn't have the pocket healer. Fuse isn't going to be able to do well enough. You're not going to get value from the health packs on the ground. So this is a very common setup defensively here for Space. They're going to use One Fact on top of this Big Earls. Remember, so far Runaway has been much better at these anti-dive Soldier comps, as was evidenced by Eichenwald.
Oh yeah.
But Cox is going to stick with this Soldier. Everything else looking pretty similar here. Looks like an anti-Pharah comp, almost like they were predicting the Pharah here.
Well, Undyne is actually going to sneak in from behind. Translocator, of course, available. And he's going to hack that health back as well in the meantime. It's nicely done. Some free shots coming in here from MVP Space as One Fact has himself set up and already at 31% on that tack visor build-up, so obviously landing the bullets that he needs to.
The anti-dive setup for MVP Space isn't very good against a McCree attack either. There is no real dive with this.
Oh, nicely done.
Cox, man, what can't he play? What can't he do tonight? Well, I don't think there's an answer to that question.
Well, there's also a sleepy one on the top of this roof as One Fact copped a stray bumper dart, which is not what you want, and that is going to be everything torn up as Stitch actually going nuts on this back line. They will be able to make their way past Big Earls, and Stitch once again able just to get into position. Cox doing the same.
They might not even have the EMP to defend this. Cox actually already doing some damage here, gets away safely. 5% to go for the EMP. They need it so desperately.
That is so important. Like, losing the mech just because he got flashbanged and destroyed is almost unacceptable. EMP flying forward from Undyne as MVP Space, trying to get some back, as Yaki is going to be darting around on the Tracer desperately, trying to stop this from getting the last remaining 4 meters in. I feel like they may have done it, but the front line is getting the work done here for Runaway, as Tizzy has thrown down the ultimate. The Primal Rage is getting them away from this point, and they should be able to get the push. You can see this cart was inching forward, and Tizzy is the one able to get the work done. One Fact is just doing what he can to delay, but it's not going to be enough.
Kyoku doesn't have a self-destruct either. They're just going to use this Deadeye to guarantee it. Just trying to keep the mobile heroes shut down here. Doesn't even need to fire it, but if a Lucio came in, if a Baby Diva was sitting on the point, that would have been the end of them. So Cox just uses this ultimate to guarantee the push. and I think it might be time to switch off the Sombra. Indeed, Undyne will do so, as that's the strongest point for Sombra on this map. You need to have 1 or 2 EMPs to burn through the bank. It's not as all-in as doing a Torbjorn, for example, defense on Numbani, but it's very similar. When you get pushed that hard, your EMP gets you only a few picks. It's pretty disastrous, and now Runaway with a very good time bank pushing forward.
Yeah, Cox the Chameleon back to his Soldier now as well. It's OneFact doing the same. Attackfires is going to get booped off the edge, though, by that Diva, as Stitch is the one picking up kills, and with OneFact out of commission, with no ability for him to get damage done, this is where Runaway are able to capitalize so effectively, continuing this shove. The Streets phase looking very, very good. Of course, it's at the very end that you want to get to, much like most of these escort maps, or hybrid maps, of course. Just before point B is a great place to defend.
They don't have Primal Rage just yet, which is a bit annoying. That's going to be their biggest tool, actually. It's very, very low. In fact, trying to eco it up here, but getting shut down. They're trapped here in spawn, essentially, as Cox is just shooting fish in a barrel. They can't even come out of the gates to contest right now. They're essentially being spawn capped, not even at the spawn, but at the entrance to this checkpoint. Runaway looks like they want to finish it home.
Yep, Yaki looking for a pulse bomb, doesn't get one though.
Not even close.
Yeah, it's going to be the sound barrier coming in as well to make sure that Cox is not going to have too much trouble. 2 kills already. Cox with the attack visor just takes out Kuki. Those bullets are pretty free as OneFact gets one, but honestly, who really cares? I mean, that first punch is often one you're going to grab a kill with, but it means nothing if the rest of your team has been flat.
Well, I mean, this is disastrous for MVP Space. I feel like it's not just the massive time bank that Runaway has done and how smooth they push this. It just feels like they're so disjointed, not even be able to leave the doors. Yaki with that, you could hardly even call it a pulse bomb attempt that he did to try to kill Cox there up on the high ground. Now in this close quarters combat, Cox will make another chameleon switch, I like the way you describe it, to the Doomfist here to try to take the fight directly to OneFact in the 1v1. Try to knock Yaki out of these fights. But it just feels like they're fighting a losing battle at every turn.
Well, we've got another nano boost coming down as Bumper throws it on top of Tizzy. Getting a lot of work done now with the Primal Rage there as well. He's just eating up so much damage. That is so many hit points that you have to get through with the Nano and the Primal Rage, especially given when he utilized it. Kuki's going to be able to take him down in the end, though, after that wears off. And it's Cox that's now left to try and get the disruption in there. He gets rid of OneFact, but they do have a man advantage, and Runaway are at least pushed away before point C, and possibly a very early push on Route 66.
Oh man, MVP Space, it's hard to even just point to one thing they're doing well right now. Yaki, so famed for his Tracer, struggling here now, not getting the picks. The same can be said of OneFact, who seems to be playing a little bit nervous, not doing the pushes, pushing the limits of what Doomfist can do. Stitch already DMAX Diva.
And he looks,
look at this.
Throws in a fadeaway pulse bomb. He's playing so well today. Tizzy picks up Kuki as he gets revenge on his other Winston opponent. And Huxal, I mean, I told you that he was a bit of a battle, Lucio.
Well, look.
Taking down a Pilot Diva isn't exactly
They need
the
to get on
best.
this. They need to.
Yeah, they're pushing so
Primal Rage
quickly.
available.
We've got no distance yet to cover. Cox is going to be able to open up with another big one to punch Fuse out of the running. We've got Transcendence, MVP Space desperately trying to hold on, just pressing as many Q buttons as they can afford, but they just don't have the options, really. Tizzy gonna take down Undyne. Kyoku gets one back against the flow of play.
No more ults here for MVP Space to use, with the exception of this pulse bomb. What can they get done with it?
Well, Undyne, he wants an ult as quickly as he can, and he thinks that getting on a Sombra is going to be his way to do it. OneFact, he's able to answer, I guess.
There's a good pulse bomb coming out from Yaki.
Gonna soften up the mech and does do so enough. So they're holding on, but we are right at the end. We've got 1:30 m before this is almost done and dusted, because honestly, this kind of push is pretty unprecedented from Runaway. OneFact now with the Meteor Strike to jump back on top of this card. And Runaway finally finding some hits back. So OneFact is going to be taken down. He was very low when he did. And Stitch continuing to play up. He's got the Pulse Bomb now just built yet again. As there's the self-destruct. They wanted to buy the space, but it's not enough. Kyoku gets himself back to the card. They're 30 centimeters away from possibly saying goodnight to this series, and they are picking up the kills. Can they do it? It's a minute to go.
Man, this is so tense. It looks like they're starting to get a little bit more ground here. Here's the EMP coming through. Will this be enough to push them back? It looks like the answer is yes. It took a long time to build, but they did buy enough time. Such good use of staggering their tools to deny the push-in. It was Winston who came in first. When he was low, he dove back to get health. That's when Kyoku came in. Yaki comes in. Such good staggering here. Runaway still has 50 seconds to at least even start overtime, mind you. Felt like that was an overtime push, but it wasn't. They've still got a lot of time left.
Yeah,
but
40 seconds to go.
They've got a nice ult lead here. So here comes the sound barrier. Runaway wants to end it now. They have Transcendence. They're going to use it right after Layering.
Stitch is a man
Oh
possessed.
my God.
Just hops onto the point. Look at them. They're like, I'm so worried about Stitch just because he's a tiny little guy. And if all of his teammates collapse on him to give him that massive hug at the end of this series, if they are able to take this one down, he may actually suffocate and die.
He may suffocate,
hopefully
die.
They don't get overly excited. We've seen Runner before, and he certainly does get very hyped up. And if this is a 3-1 victory for Runaway, which they have set themselves up for, could certainly happen.
MVP Space definitely a little bit lack of aware there at the end as the cap comes through. They had, such great staggering time and time again until it mattered most in that last push there with really good usage of the sound barrier into that Transcendence. 11 seconds to go before we go into what could be the end of this series for MVP Space. Remember, for them, though, if they do get this completion, if we do go into extra rounds and they somehow are able to make it happen, and that will actually be the end of Runaway, very likely in this group.
That fade
Look at
away.
Stitch. Oh, my God.
So good. Softens everyone up with that one as well. As you can see, just this was the end of the game.
So
it's all about Stitch, man.
Yep. Just getting these picks here. EMP totally whiffs. And that is going to be how this one comes to an end. Look at pick jumping in. That's the cap. So let's talk about what happens next year, though, for this push, because this is where we saw MVP Space struggle on the castle phase of Eichenwald. This is why, it's very likely that Runaway picked this map, because Big Earls operate similarly. The anti-dive, the anti-one-fact, Doomfist composition where you have Cox on the soldier, and both Tizzy and Janu stayed away so they could actually dive in to catch the dive of Kuki, to catch the dive of One Fact when he tried to go up onto the castle. They dealt with it so well, so many times. The health pack being gone here also is a problem for MVP Space running this dive. Can they do what they failed to do on castle? That's going to determine whether they get a good time on this first checkpoint.
Oh, we've got some hacked health packs here as they're going for the triple DPS bumper over onto the Sombra. This time around, not going to be Cox. So he's going to be occupying that high ground on this soldier, trying to build up towards attack visor. Currently at about a quarter of the way through. But this is where they want to try and stop this card, get themselves into the right position. Cox freely firing, but not wanting to stand too aggressively because the eyes are certainly on him. As far as denial, Undyne going to be taken down, though. Cox just not dealt with, flat out.
Straight up, he was discorded for a while, but they couldn't get the finishing blows. Oh, man, and this is already so good for Runaway. Cox is just able to get kills running on the ground as a soldier. It's his pick of litter who he wants to fire on, and MVP Space is chased back to the spawn. Staggered spawn, by the way, on Kuki, who just barely didn't make it into the spawning point. Time is burning here, and again, Runaway, ult advantage. This high ground, they can reset for the hold here.
Yeah, and remember that push from Runaway was halted somewhat towards the end, and they had to invest Deadeye in order to try and get this one through, but it honestly feels like MVP Space don't have a composition that can handle Cox's complete obliteration of them from the high ground. Who gets up there? I mean, I guess you uppercut up there from One Fact, but the peel all night long from the Runaway frontline has been so good, especially for Cox, and as you can see, doesn't look like Doomfist can really do much against this Soldier 76.
Cox is killing both Yaki when he tries to get in there, and Doomfist, for One Fact, when he tries to go around the front. They're never able to dive together. The dive, which is the strongest point of MVP Space, most would say, feels weak against this setup for Runaway, who are about to have Big 6 on defense, including that EMP, so they can stagger these ultimates to just burn more and more time. Speaking of ultimates, this could be the first. Nope, we'll hold it for now.
Bump's going to jump back, just trying to bait things out here. There's One Fact with the missile strike, meteor strike, and he actually jumps up into the air immediately to start this one off. Kyoku, though, completely out of the mech already, as there's the EMP just before the self-destruct takes out the Sombra. kills actually coming in for MVP Space, but Runaway getting some back, and Stitch is alive. Cox also alive and is holding on to this tack visor for so long. Tizzy now does have the Primal Rage, but see whether he's going to be able to utilize it, as OneFact does eventually take down Stitch.
They're just trying to stall this out. If they can stall it out long enough, maybe they could sustain long enough for another EMP. Cox gets picked off yet again. He's the main damage for Runaway in terms of rage DPS.
Yeah, they were able to get him out of the fight quite nicely as well for MVP Space. So well done, but they have certainly bought far more time of Runaway than MVP Space were able to here on the first point.
They don't have Primal Rage, so delaying this now is going to be very difficult. They just want to burn a few more seconds off without getting wiped here. Okay, that's the double for OneFact. This should be the end of the defense. Oh, or is it? Stitch!
Unless Stitch takes matters into his own hands and kills flat out everyone. QOQ finishes him off in the end, and I'm not sure.
EMP's built. This is what they wanted. They wanted to buy time for this.
Is it going to be enough? No, not able to press the Q button in time, and despite all of those heroics, not able to get too much more, but damn, looks good on a highlight reel.
I mean, this game is playing with my heart, Atlas. I mean, it is down to the wire now for these two. MVP Space almost held there. Had Bumper had a few teammates to use the EMP with, it would have been a great opportunity. Already he's gotten more value on the Sombra than we saw from Undyne.
Okay, Runaway, bit awkward defensive position right now as Bumper's looking for the back line, and they do manage to take down Undyne. So Stitch gets that kill. Cox is going to die on the front line though, as Yaki is getting work done, but if there's no support, I feel like Stitch can get work done. OneFact gets rid of Bumper, but do they have more? And there they go. Nicely done, MVP Space, cleaning up off the back end, and the Twitch plays from OneFact, getting the punch onto Stitch so he can't be annoying.
OneFact has double heals. He also has the Discord orbs to get picks. That's something that was missing for Runaway because they held onto the Sombra for so long, trying to get that extra EMP. They didn't get it to stop the checkpoint. It failed to get much value when they used it on the second Streets phase here, but now they need to switch because they need the double support. Cox does get another pick here, though. This is going to be the stop push for Space.
Oh, they are building ultimates as well so quickly on the side of Runaway and not actually having to invest anything. Stitch going for the battle here against Yaki, but not too worried about that one. Now, yeah, like you said, Bumper switching over. They're looking to build up this Transcendence, and yeah, Discord orbs are the aim of the game. Getting those orbs of harmony as well has been very important for keeping Tizzy alive, who has been super strong on that front line. Undyne getting aggressed on by Stitch, who has a sound barrier to keep him healthy. It's going to be traded though. Undyne throws out the Transcendence to try and keep him afloat, and he's going to be taken out. Okay, not going to find anything with the Pulse Bomb is Stitch.
OneFact looking for the double. Gets it.
Big
so
drop
huge
down.
He needed that because they already lost one of their supports in the early part of the fight.
Is it actually going to be enough, though? Yaki does pick up the kill on Tizzy and eventually gets rid of the rest of the front line as well, as Janu is going to fall down. So, okay, MVP Space successful. Didn't look like it was going to be, but then Yaki comes in and capitalizes on the space gained with that Meteor Strike.
And now we have no real great tools for Runaway to deny this this checkpoint here. 40 seconds to go. They don't have big ultimates to use. Cox gets a pick. That's certainly going to be helpful. As Kyoku is about to have the self-destruct, MVP Space, much more tools here, but not members now with Yaki going down.
Yeah, OneFact is going to fall, and this is exactly the position that you want to set up the defense. They can now hop back to that high ground and try and hold them off. 20 seconds for MVP Space to make it past point B and to keep their hopes alive. Of course, Meta Athena still can play spoiler against Lunatic High, but it feels so difficult, and you want your fate in your hands. Runaway so close to being the team to do that.
Okay, here we go. Two opening picks here on the final push, and it looks like MVP Space is all out of tools here. Using the self-destruct, it's their last attempt. They get the one pick. They're going to have to buy a lot of time for everyone to respawn, though. I'm not sure if they can do it. The runbacks are long.
Yeah, Stitch is going to be able to take down the Diva Mech as well.
Undyne's
Everything
down.
falling apart
That's
for MVP Space, and Runaway. Oh!
Okay,
Okay.
1 second there for Fuse, but that is going to be it at the end.
There
and
we
Runaway,
go.
the miracle win they needed. They needed the 3-1 to keep fate in their hands to move on out of this group. What a story! Runner comes to the booth, so emotional here. He stepped out tonight. Tizzy was back in, and we saw total position swaps. We saw experimentation.
Tears once again for Runner as well. We know how emotional he gets, and this meant so much. We could once again have both of our Season 2 finalists in the round of 8.
And so much experimentation throughout this group from them as they had those moments to swap. Haksal, this was not his first time playing the Lucio, not the first time we've seen the swap here for Janu onto a tank, onto the Diva, but they made it permanent in this series, and it's the composition they used, it's the positions they used to get out of this group. And now MVP Space all but down and out, as it's very likely that Lunatic High will take a strong win against Meta Athena. This team had a breakout performance in groups, their best performance in Apex history. But at the end of the day, it still wasn't enough. And it's the saddest way to win when you're considered one of the best tracers in the group, when you're considered one of the best Doomfists in the group, and you're dying to Cox, who's playing 10, 11 different heroes on the night.
Every different role as well. Now he looks like he has settled into that DPS position, but when you've got superstars from former seasons like Haksal sitting on the lineup, he's now playing Lucio, and I'm feeling like it's the right decision to make because Stitch and Cox together look like enough of a DPS line to get this team back to having that feeling. You know, I feel like watching Runaway now is like the Season 2 Runaway. The Runaway that was exciting, the Runaway that you thought could go the distance. Season 3 Runaway was a little bit more disappointing, no more Kaiser, and where is the innovation? Where is the change up? But this, once again, it's feeling the same way. I'm starting to get excited, Wolf, and honestly, Cox looking fantastic. Stitch looking brilliant today. He was against Yaki. Yes, you were saying that Yaki, one of the most celebrated tracers, especially for his first 2 matches.
Yeah, destroying
But he was
Teju.
outshone, honestly, by Stitch today.
He was. Stitch playing the non-position swap tonight.
The only one.
Yeah.
Apart from Tizzy, I
Tizzy, of
guess.
course, but he wasn't on the roster when
Yeah.
they played against Lunatic High last week.
There he is.
And now, I mean, sure, this was a great victory for Runaway. It was another Cinderella story. They had the runner Pixie Dust in the booth. It's the fan dream. They make it now out of the round of 16. However, will this position swap work in the round of 8 against other top-tier teams? That's the big question. Will this continue to work? Will this continue to succeed? Because tonight was not the same MVP Space we saw in their previous matches. They were shaky. The entire crowd was cheering against them. A tough position to play in.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was the one night where the momentum was definitely shining for Runaway. Will it continue into the round of 8? Only time will tell.
Well, Tizzy is going to be our player of the game. I thought that it would probably have been Stitch.
Yeah.
But
I guess we saw a lot of those already.
if you're going to get a triple boop off the edge, that feels pretty good. Not
Gets
quite
another
a
kill
triple,
there onto
but
the
still
Tracer
just
too.
kills. Yeah, that's all right. I mean, I feel like 3-man pulse bomb into double kill was probably better enough, but I don't know.
I mean, we saw replays of that. We didn't see a replay of this one yet, so just to highlight this team again. Some
Yeah.
more Runaway fan service.
I'm feeling okay about it, Wolf, and I feel like everything's gone back to normalcy. As you saw, X6 were able to wipe the floor with Combox. That was not even close, but it was X6 looking very, very strong in that series. And
remember,
both of these teams are promoted out of their groups as well.
That's
so
right.
Group D is decided, and now it's Runaway that have confirmed themselves alive with that 3-1 victory over MVP Space.
The first series was more of the first world problems series, just trying to get that first place there. Both teams already confirmed for the round of 8. It'll be X6's second time making it out of the round of 16 group stage. They will do so this time being able to choose groups. They were the team that everyone was afraid of in Season 3 because their playstyle was so variable, and everyone was saying we should avoid this team. Here are our standings. So look at this. Runaway and MVP Space with a +2. Lunatic High, all they have to do is get the +1 here to knock MVP Space out. If they win with any score, MVP Space will drop down to 3rd place. So Meta Athena has to win.
But guys, if it's a 3-0 in favor of Meta Athena, then you've got Runaway and MVP Space, and Lunatic High are out. I have a feeling that that is not going to happen. However, MVP Space their fate no longer in their hands, but they're still not out of it just yet.
And that score will also determine who takes first place, so everything will be decided by that series, which is one that was kind of anticlimactic before tonight, but will actually mean a lot more now. Here are the matchups for Friday. It will be Kongdu Panthera and Flash Lux to close out Group B's final standings, and the same can be said of Group C, with Luxury Watch Red facing off against Rox Orcas. So two series that could be a little bit one-sided, but they are required series to finish the groups. Fight money on the line, of course, and pride on the line for these two orgs, Flash Lux and Rox Orcas, who have had a pretty rough season.
Yeah, statement matches as well for Kongdu Panthera and LW Red moving into the round of 8. So it's going to be important for them to make sure that they're sending the correct message, because these guys are looking like certainly the strongest out of their groups. And because we haven't had any cross-group play just yet, then it's going to be important to send a message to your opponents as well.
That's right. Don't pick me in the round of 8 group stage. Avoid me. It's definitely going to be the message they're trying to send. So it's been a great night of matches, man. I didn't think that Runaway would come out so dominant. And after watching the control game, I was certain they were going to switch back. I was certain we were going to watch Hoxell's Genji on Eichenwald, but I guess maybe this is the new roles they'll run with for potentially the rest of the season.
Yeah. And Runaway just changing up how you look at the game as well, because Eichenwald was such a good map for MVP space. They looked so good, and then holding them like at the very bottom there just before the castle was something that I hadn't seen just yet. We've seen Eichenwald for a long time now, but that was exciting. They're changing up the roster completely, but it looked solid for today. It's not like other days that we've seen them where they change up all of their roles, you know, during one map, which hasn't necessarily worked. But it was consistent today, consistently weird, honestly, based on what we've expected, but consistent nonetheless, and they were performing extraordinarily well. So massive props to Runaway for their victory, and I'm excited to see them in round of 8 moving forward.
They still have so much depth to their roster, too, because if it becomes a meta where they feel like they need to switch back to what they're more commonly doing, you know, putting Oxel back onto the Genji, they certainly can do that. Kaiser's still waiting for Reinhardt to become meta. I mean, there are things to remember for Runaway that we haven't seen yet, that we didn't see in this series as well. So I think the depth of Runaway is definitely there. And I think the big worry was, okay, we're seeing Runner in the booth, there's problems on the team, and in a certain way it felt like mechanically with the swaps they kept running, no one was really confident. But today was the first day where that confidence really shone through.
Yeah, certainly fantastic. We're going to be moving to another patch as well for the round of 8, and we'll see what Runaway can do there. But that's going to be it from us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on Friday.
영웅은 죽